Okay, we want to take a quick look at doing some division here, and specifically division with integers. For the most part, it's exactly the same as multiplication with integers. We can use those same sign rules, right? Positive divided by a positive, just like always, is going to be a positive. Negative divided by negative, like we learned with multiplication, that's going to be a negative. Or sorry, that's also going to be a positive. And if we've got negative divided by positive or positive divided by negative, we'll get negative. So the signs are the same, answer will be positive. The quotient will be positive. Signs are different, quotient will be negative. So let's just think though quickly about what does it mean again to divide something. So if I have 12, in this case positive 12, divided by positive 3, means I've got 12 somethings. And one of the ways that I can look at that is I can divide it into groups of 3. So I've got 12 things, and I want to divide them into groups of 3. So here's my 12 things, and I can divide them into groups of 3. So here's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in this case, I've got 12 somethings, sort of circles a little bit. And I'm going to divide them into groups of 3. And I look, how many groups do I have? Well, I've got 4 groups. So I can say 12 divided into groups of 3. Okay. That's one way to look at it. The other way would be that I've got 12 somethings and I'm going to divide them into 3 groups. So same idea. I've got here's 3, 4, like I'm dealing cards or something, right? 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Alright, and so what I've done here is I've said, okay, well, I'm dividing 12 into 3 groups. How many in each group? So I can also think of this 12 divided into 3 groups. And my quotient with number 1 was how many is in each group. Sorry, let's try that again. My quotient for number 1 was how many groups, right? I'm dividing them into groups of 3. I'm asking how many groups. I can also look at it here with number 2 and say how many in each group. Or how many per group. Right. Either of those is a perfectly valid way of looking at not only integer division, but division in general. All right, so let's take a look here. What you are going to have to do is make some of your own integer chips. Very easy to do this. You're going to need a scissors, piece of paper. What you're going to do is divide your piece of paper. You don't even need a whole necessary piece, but something like this, right? Bunch of squares on one, and then cut them out. Once you're done that, put a plus sign on one side of them and a negative sign on the other, right? So on the front side, you can write a plus sign. Back side, you're going to write a negative sign. If you flip them plus side up, it represents a positive number. Negative side up represents a negative number. And you should make yourself, a grand total of probably 20 of these should be good enough. I'm trying to just double check that I'm not, yeah, actually even 12 is plenty. 12 should be good. All right. So showing this with integer chips, I've got positive 12 divided by positive 3. So in this case here, I've got my positive 12. That's what I'm starting with. So I've got the pile of 12 in front of me, and I'm going to, again, just like I showed up here, make it into 3 groups. That would be one way. So I've got my 3 groups. Oops, let's try that again. Sorry. Starting again, we're going to make actually 3 piles. If you would rather make 3 big circles, put them into these 3 big circles, by all means you can do that, right? So I've got a plus in here, plus in here. Looks like a really creepy face for a moment. Plus in here, plus in here. It's getting better now. That's a grand total of 6 that I've divided into 3 groups. And I keep going. Now I've got 9 divided into 3 groups, 10, 11, and 12. In this case, I'm saying, okay, I got 3 groups. 12 divided into 3 groups leaves me with positive 4 in each group. I could also look at this in terms of positive 12 divided into groups of 3. So I've got one group of 3 here, another group of 3 here, total 6 so far, another group of 3 here, and another group of 3 here. How many groups of 3 do I have? I've got 1, 2, assuming I can circle them, 3, 4. Again, equals positive 4 groups of 3. All right. Let's take a quick peek here now. Dividing by a negative and modeling it, I kind of prefer, I've got negative 12 somethings, and I'm going to put negative 3 into each group. I prefer to think of it this way. It's just easier because I'm going to get positive 4 groups, right? So there's one group of negative 3, another group of negative 3, and 2 more groups of negative 3, right? So one group, another group, another group, these are sleeping faces, and another group. So what we see here is, how many groups do I have? Well, I have positive 4 groups of negative 3. I'm going to leave this one for now, okay? The second way of looking at this. We can say, okay, well, I want to make negative 3 groups. We could model this using 0 pairs, but I find modeling it that way tends to cause more confusion than it's worth. I'd like to have the one way to model it this way. We could do it with 0 pairs. If you want a challenge, figure out how can you show 12 divided into negative 3 groups, or taking away 3 groups. So taking away negative 3 groups, or taking away 3 groups from negative 12, and show how that you're left with positive 4. It's possible. It creates a lot of confusion sometimes, so if you want to try it as a challenge, go for it. I'm not going to work through that one. Alright, so let's go down here one more. Negative 12 divided by positive 4. So again, I can do this the 0 pair method, or I can say I've got negative 12 and I want to divide it into positive 4 groups. How many are in each group? So I'm going to have 4 groups. That is a terrible circle. Let's just try that again. Oops. circles. So I've got positive 4 groups. I've got negative 12's got to go in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like I'm dealing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many are in each group? There's negative 3 in each group. Again, you can show that with 0 pairs. I'm going to divide 12 into groups of positive 4. How many am I going to have to take away to do that? It creates more confusion than it's worth to model it that way. If we can think about it and be able, just like we looked at the beginning, to think of division as either dividing into groups of our divisor, right? Dividing into groups of positive 4, or dividing into that many groups. Either way works. This way is easier to model. Okay? So again, here I'm dividing by a positive number. It's really easy to think of this as, okay, I'm going to divide this into that many groups. Here, I'm dividing by a negative number. Well, here I want to say I'm going to divide into groups that have negative 4 in them. Again, this is going to be a tough one to down there. Let's go scroll down just a little bit. This is going to be a tough one, or a little bit on the tough side to model. So in this case here, we would need to use the 0 pairs if I'm going to say positive 12 divided by negative 4. Because we're going to be taking away a few of the groups. I could model this. I am not going to model this one with the 0 pairs. Your textbook does show that. I am not a huge fan of modeling this one here because it's a very forced way of looking at it. Can it be done? Absolutely. Our answer here, let's use the sign rule. Positive 12 divided by negative 4, our signs are different, which means our answer is going to be negative. It's going to be 3. So we can always look and say, okay, 12 divided by 4, that's 3. Then look at the sign rule. That works also. Okay. Moving down. All right, one night, the temperature in Wetaskiwin in Alberta was falling by 2 degrees Celsius each hour. How many hours did it take for the temperature to fall 10 degrees altogether? So here we are saying that we are looking for a grand total of a change of 10 degrees Celsius to the negative, so negative 10 degrees Celsius. We want to divide that. Each hour it is dropping by negative 2 degrees Celsius. All right, how many hours does it take to get down to that negative, to drop that negative 10 degrees Celsius? Now, I think you can probably say, well, sign rule. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Negative divided by negative, that's going to be positive 5 hours. Yes, it's going to take positive 5 hours. And not a degree Celsius, but an hour sign. Sorry for a unit. If I got to show that using integer chips, well, again, I've got my negative 10. I've got my 10 negatives to start. And I'm going to divide those into groups each that have negative 2 in them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. How many groups of negative 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Easy way to look at it. Alright, there is your assignment. It's also on the sheet that you've got. Give that a try. Thanks. Have fun.